Hello everyone, my name is Alexey, and today I want to talk with you about some TypeScript utility types. TypeScript is a common solution for big projects, and work with types could be tricky, especially maybe with generated types for the API or data transfer objects for delete, update, or add specific items to the database. Utility types are going to help us in manipulations with types, and I will describe some of them. So please like, subscribe, and let's start. Firstly, I want to talk with you about partial utility type. And for example, we have type vehicle with ID string, brand string, model string, max speed, and mileage. And let's create a function for updating this vehicle. For example, we have an interface and we are able to update vehicle. So const update vehicle. And here we will have an arrow function. Here we will have, for example, some logic. And as a parameter, this update vehicle function will take a vehicle with type vehicle. Yeah. And if we will try to call update vehicle with, for example, ID 1, 2, 3, 4 and mileage, for example, 56, we will have an error because all these properties in our type are required and we need to pass all of them in order to get rid of this error. It's not our variant because we won't pass here all props from vehicle because it could be 23 props or even more. And it's extremely uncomfortable in development way or something like that. And how we need to change our type to pass here partial parameters. We need to wrap our vehicle into partial. And it will be full valid. And let's see what partial does. So const partial, so not const, type partial vehicle equals to partial vehicle. Yeah. And as we can see, we will have here all properties from vehicle, but they will be optional. And here we can pass some parameters from vehicle and update, for example, our car. It's how partial could be useful in the real code. Okay, let's move to the next utility type, and it will be pick. And for example, we will have in our application function for updating mileage of our vehicle. So which parameter we need to pass into our update mileage? Obviously, it could be an ID and mileage. We don't want to provide brand, model, and max speed. And we need somehow to pick a couple of parameters from the vehicle and receive new interface, and it could be object. And for example, we will have type update mileage DTO, and it could be pick. And into pick we will provide as a first parameter vehicle, and then we need to pick some properties. And for example, it could be ID and also mileage. Yes? Nice. And if we will hover into update mileage DTO, we will see that initial type will be ID and mileage. And if we will use it as a parameter, so update object, for example, and it could be update mileage DTO, and we will use our update mileage function, we will need to provide here ID and mileage. And here we can provide an ID, and then it could be an error because we didn't provide any mileage. So mileage will be, for example, 12,500, and it's valid. So we can pick some properties from our object or initial type and create based on it another interface, which could be an object, and pick some properties from it. Okay, let's move to the next utility type. And in our vehicle, we've added owner and license plate fields. And for example, we will have an interesting function in our application, and it will be const update service info. And it will be an arrow function with specific logic. Cool. But we need somehow to provide object to our function. And for example, we will need to update service info, and it could be license plate, owner, mileage, and max speed. Yes? And we can do it in one way. So we can create type update service info DTO, data transfer object, and we can use pick here, and we can pick from the vehicle some properties like license plate, owner, mileage, and max speed. Yes? And we can do it in this way, yes, of course, but what if this number of service fields will be increasing? So we will have here oil level, etc., transmission, maybe state or something like that, and we will need to add these properties to our pick, and it's extremely bad solution. It's not scalable, but we can use other utility type, and it will be omit. So in omit we also need to provide as a first argument our type, and here we will need provide for example permanent fields, so brand and model couldn't be changed. So we can provide model and brand. Yes, and this update service DTO will have an ID, max speed, mileage, owner, and license plate. And if we will have, for example, oil level, and it will be a string, for example, we will see oil level here also. So we can omit permanent properties of our vehicle and pick, for example, properties which we can change and provide it into service as a parameter. So it could be an object, and it could be update service info DTO. And we will need to provide max speed, mileage, owner, license plate, and oil level. Extremely convenient and useful. Okay, let's talk about the last utility type for today. And for example, we will have interesting situation. We will have type vehicle, and ID, brand, model, max speed, and mileage properties will be required. But for example, from the backend we received specification, and in this specification, owner, license plate, and oil level in our vehicle are optional. And we need to implement function update car ownership in our application. But for car ownership, for updating car ownership, we need to have owner and license plate. So you can say that we can use pick and pick owner and license plate. And yes, we will have owner and license plate. But if we will use this function, we can provide here only owner, Alexei, and we can't provide, for example, license plate, and it will be acceptable for TypeScript. But for updating car ownership, we need to provide owner and license plate exactly. We can't provide one of them, and we need somehow to change these properties to required, and we need to use simple required utility type. So we can write here just required, and our properties owner and license plate will be required for this update car ownership DTO, so in difference with first vehicle object. So we need to provide here also license plate. So it will be AA777AA, and if we will remove license plate or owner, we will have an error, so this type is not acceptable with required properties in update car ownership DTO. So it's how you can make required your optional properties in your code for some situations, for example, for updating some logic or for displaying some elements, and you can do it in this way with required utility type. Okay, in this video we looked at utility types for TypeScript. We saw in what situations they can be useful for us and how to improve our TypeScript code many times over without creating duplicate objects or building crunches in our code. I hope this video was helpful. I hope you took something out for yourself, learned or updated your knowledge. So that's it. Please like, subscribe, stay tuned. Please follow my Telegram channel and check the description. Bye.